Dallas-Fort Worth lands another big headquarter relocation from California, keeping that exodus out of California going. Typically, they're going to Texas and Florida. This time, North Dallas, not shocking. What kind of company is it? What do they do? Why are they moving? Let's get into it. Here we go. So it's kitchen appliance maker Thermomix. They announced Friday that it's relocating its corporate headquarters to Dallas. And it's just not shocking. Texas has a better environment for business, right? If you want to have all that inclusion crap and equitable and all that nonsense, stay in California because that seems to be working out well. If you want to have affordable housing, have a nice place to raise your family, yeah, it's a little bit hotter than California, but you got to deal with stuff. And more importantly, if you want to run a business, Texas is so much more pro-business friendly and Florida is as well. So many states are. Vast majority of states are more pro-business friendly than California. And yet California's governor just keeps thinking that, people will just move here just because it's California. It used to be the place to go to for years and years and years. And it's not now. People are going away. So that out-migration is impacting things. So Thermomix, a maker of Wi-Fi connected kitchen appliances, plans to move its corporate headquarters from California to Dallas, the company announced Friday. Thermomix, which is currently based in Thousand Oaks, California, makes and sells cooking appliances worldwide for smart kitchens. Its U.S. sales totaled more than $30 million last year. So it is not an enormous company, but it's a decent-sized company. It's an up-and-comer, right? It's an up-and-comer. The company announced the move Friday during a meeting with its top sales representatives in Austin. According to a news release, we are excited to root ourselves in the rich tapestry of Texas, fuel our long-term future, and heat up an appreciation for the world of home cooking in new and exciting ways. Frederick Lundquist, the company's CEO for the U.S. and Canada, said in a prepared statement, the release from the company did not say where in Dallas Thermomix will go, but said the move, which takes place by the end of the year. It did not say how many jobs would be transferred or created with the headquarters move. In connection with the relocation, the company is developing an ambitious expansion plan to supercharge the U.S. sales, according to the release. Nobody is moving into California along these lines, right? Yeah, we're going. If there is a move like that, it is specifically a tech company who's had it in the works for a while, because nobody in their right mind is moving into California unless you are literally there for the tech market. And I've seen a handful of those since the pandemic, but the vast majority of stories I read are people getting out of Dodge. They're leaving California. They're leaving the tax structure. They're leaving the homeless situation. They're leaving all that because Dallas just doesn't have that. Spent a lot of time in Dallas during my early and mid 20s. My parents moved down there, and it was super fun as a young 20-year-old kid. I was down there, I think, for a full summer and on and off for a bunch of other timepieces. But I got to know Dallas well enough, particularly North Dallas, Plano area. I've still got family that live in that area. So, I mean, it's got a lot going on. And back then it was the affordable housing that, national builders would come in and just build these enormous developments. I mean, just tract housing after tract housing after tract housing because you could. Because there was there's no spotted owls in the trees. There's none of this. You're within 500 feet of Puget Sound, therefore, and you got a view of the mountain. Therefore, you can't build anything but a tree fort in, your backyard. You don't have any of that environmental regulation because you're just cutting up farmland. You're cutting up dirt. You're cutting up something that, hey, let's make it into housing. We might as well. It's just sitting there otherwise. It's flat. There's no views. I mean, people say, I live in the hill country. We've got views for miles. I'm like, yeah, but not relative to the Puget Sound. You don't have views of a big mountain, of water, of a lake, of, the skyline. You don't have views. Just, there's no comparison. And I've been to the hill country and it's got hills. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it's better than the flat areas, but it's not epic by any means. Home to numerous direct sales companies for decades, Texas was a clear choice when the brand was choosing a new headquarters location, Lundquist said. We greatly admire the state's deep history with building connection and culture through food and for the way Texas supports entrepreneurs and innovative businesses such as Thermomix, he said in the prepared remarks. Thermomix uses a direct sales model through in-home tactile cooking experiences hosted by independent sales consultants via e-commerce. Kind of sounds like Tupperware, doesn't it? Sounds like a modern version of Tupperware, which it basically is. It's a way to get your marketing out there. So you have those tactile cooking experiences. And somebody brings in, they've got the whole cooking thing. I know other companies do that as well, but this is what they're doing, and they are looking to expand, and they recognized, all right, maybe we don't want to have our headquarters in California because then we've got that corporate liability tax wise and everything else that goes with it. And Texas, invariably, you will hear Texas roll out the red carpet for any business. They just make it so much easier to get up and running. I did a podcast not long ago where the city of Portland was going to force a new company to spend $160,000 to get the sidewalk around the front of their store just right so that homeless people can, take drugs and poop on it. I mean, that's what you do on a sidewalk in Portland, right? No, that's not across the board correct. But my point is that it's so onerous in the Pacific Northwest, in California, to get a business up and running. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you've already got a brand that's going to upscale a bunch, do it in a place where you can do that, right? Before you make those moves, before you make that, additional investment into your company, get everybody on the right page and get them all located in a spot that makes sense. And for so many businesses, Texas is the clear and above choice. And a lot of that has to do with housing and quality of life, right? People are fearing that California has just basically lost its way. And since the pandemic, there's been a mass exodus. And what it goes to show is that people are moving away from, some of these blue cities into slightly redder situations like Florida and Texas. And they're taking trillions of dollars of employees and assets and future business income and growth. They're taking it with them. So Thermomix's parent company, German-based Vorwerk, now in its 140th year of operation, reported $4.1 billion in global sales in 2022. So that's who owns it ultimately, and that's who's backing it. So they've got some room to go, it sounds like. And it sounds like they've got some real ability to grow. And so when you're in that, crossroads of, all right, we got to make a decision here, let's go. These businesses invariably are leaving a California environment and they're going to either Texas or Florida, right? And Texas seems to be the go-to. And I can't really blame them. Texas, has so many more things going for it from a business standpoint, not necessarily everything else, but just from a business standpoint. And then when you've got affordable housing, you've got a roadway system. I don't know if you've ever driven in Texas, but they've always got a roadway system that can carry enormous amounts of traffic. And that's from the burbs, they've got these tollways that you can always utilize. Whereas Seattle traffic just backs up and we're hosed. We're just hosed. I did a podcast not long ago about some environmentalists and some anti-capitalist folks doing a protest on the 2-lane highway, calling it a highway is a broad term. And they did a protest in the middle of this highway as burners were going into Burning Man. And that was yesterday. What a bad time to have a protest on a main highway. But in Texas, they've built their roadway systems to handle massive amounts of population. So yeah, traffic does get backed up, but not the way that it gets backed up here in Seattle. You've got these massive freeway systems. You get confused. It's like, am I getting on this one? Am I getting on, where's that one go? Massive. And they're all just going off into the sunset, or so it feels when I'm down there. I'm more in Oklahoma City, and getting out of the airport there, you're like, wow, there's so many huge freeway systems here, and they've all got a purpose. They usually go in circles, and it's like that 15-minute city, but it's way bigger than that. And it's not walkable. You got to drive. I mean, you got to have a car to get around. But, so yeah, those are some of the differences in the lack of income tax, the lack of taxes, the lack of, just the sheer amount of red tape that these businesses need to go through to be up and running in California, and just stay up and running. It's like here in Seattle, we've had multiple folks on our city council go after Amazon because Amazon's a big target. They got a huge budget. Well, let's just tax Amazon. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. And Amazon says, headquarters 2 isn't going to be located here. It's going to be located. And then they just send a bunch of their employees over to here in Bellevue instead. And that's kind of what it seems like. Got so many Amazon employees here in Bellevue now that it's like, all right, yeah, I know you're located in Seattle, but it sure feels like you're over here in this area. And it's because businesses don't want to deal with cities, states that poop on them. It's as simple as that. And if they don't have to have their employees live in areas where they are fearful of going to the grocery store because they might get mugged, going shopping, you might run into a mob encounter. Not saying that's happening in all these locations, but enough of that gets out there. And, why wouldn't you want to move to Dallas? The Big D. Let's go to the Big D. You got a lot going on there, right? You got a lot going on there. It is hot though. It is hot. I can't remember. I was talking to my dad the other day, and he's like, yeah, it's 105 to get today. It's supposed to be 107 tomorrow, something like that. And I'm like, good Lord, it's going to crack 81 here today in Seattle in August. Because Seattle's got that weather that just doesn't get all that hot. And we got to deal with the other 9 months out of the year where you've got that, liquid sunshine coming down from the skies. Texas doesn't have that issue. California doesn't have that issue either. But the whole businesses, you are seeing the onslaught of businesses leave California, leave areas where it's not conducive to do business, and go to a pro-business area. And I think what's so funny is that literally Gavin Newsom went to Florida and tried to pitch people, hey, come to California. I mean, what would your pitch be? We got Hollywood and we got Mickey Mouse. Florida's got it too. What do you got? All right. You got the Golden State Warriors. You got whatever. I think so many entities are recognizing we got to go. Or they already have. Remember when Joe Rogan left during the beginning of the podcast, he was going to get that massive payout over time from Spotify, 200 million, and originally it was 100. I mean, no wonder he picked up and left, right? I think there might have been some tax implications there. You think? Right? Let's see. How many hundreds of millions am I taking in? Okay. Multiply that by 0.13, whatever the state income tax is in California if you're the high earner. How many millions is that? It's an easy decision to make, right? You go away from where your taxation is high, and that creates literally what we're talking about here on News for Reasonable People. We're talking about that doom loop. Is that it for the article? It is. We're talking about that doom loop of when you don't have we've got too many people leaving, businesses leaving. Now you've got less income, right? You got less income to work with. So you either need to raise those taxes or cut your expenses. One of the things that I saw in San Francisco in one of the podcasts I was considering doing, it was all about how much money was being spent and what it looks like to clean a bus on the Bay Area Rapid Transit on the BART system, and how moving forward, cleaning and funding the BART system it's going to take a whack because San Francisco, like most big cities with a struggling downtown core, San Francisco's got over 30% vacancy in their downtown core. So they do not have the money moving forward to fund all of their programs that they once had, including funding of the Bay Area Rapid Transit. The amount of cleaning that goes into daily those buses is insane. Starting off with like biohazard and then working on poop, getting rid of the needles, getting rid of the, just the craziness that rides Bay Area Rapid Transit and doesn't pay half of the time. They don't pay. So, you got a system that's wildly broken, and it's no wonder that business executives look at it and go, all right, we're in the midst of making a move here. What do we do? Where are we going to go? All right, over there. Yeah, pro-business, affordable housing. People want to live there. Okay, here, no income tax, lower taxes, lower standards to get in, and they support business. Over here, you've got literally the opposite where they started, because so many companies have started in California, because it used to be where you went to do your thing with the American dream, right? I'm going to go to Cali. We get my business running in Cali because there's such a population and there's such demand, or there has been. But businesses that are making strategic moves right now, they are saying sayonara, and they are going to slightly more red states and cities and towns, right? That's what we're seeing. And yet states like California continue to say, well, we've got everything. You don't need to go there. It's fine here. It's all good. And I think people making decisions are like, I'd probably, quietly disagree with you. And that's why we're going to go to Dallas. And that's what they're doing. So continue to expect to see this storyline moving forward, because I don't think it's not going away, because the fundamentals that support this out migration from Cali, in migration into Texas, into Arizona, into Florida, the underlying principles there are all the same. Until you start to turn some of that stuff around. We haven't even talked about the street conditions where a lot of these businesses are operating. People don't want to deal with the homeless. They're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of politicians saying, oh, this is horrible. We need to do something. And then putting together a task force and talking about it, but never really doing anything. Whereas you've already got a city in the form of Dallas that just doesn't put up with a lot of that nonsense. Just don't have those types of things going on. You don't have the massive fentanyl overdoses. San Francisco is in the midst of a massive, massive run of fentanyl overdoses. And quite honestly, why wouldn't they, right? They've said, hey, do all the drugs you want. We're okay with that. And then people start dying and they're like, whoa, hi now, what's going on? Yeah, it's logic like that that's driving people out of those areas and driving people into areas where they've got opportunity, where they can ramp that company up, like Thermomix. What is the name here? Like Thermomix. Thermomix. There we go. All right. Check out Thermomix. See what they got going on. Maybe you've heard of it. I hadn't. Thanks again for being here. Thanks so much for supporting News for Reasonable People. I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.